Down. I'm gonna grab one of these. What's up, y'all?
What's up?
What's up? It's your boys here, Doug and Josh, in the house. It's Thursday.
Doug's house.
Doug's house, my attic. Don't make fun of me because I haven't finished this attic yet. You finished this attic. You see what I did? Do it right at him. It's Thursday.
That's right.
We are on the back end of a beefy service upgrade that kicked our asses in a couple ways. And so anytime we have a scenario where we learn something or something was kind of different than it was before, best thing to do is sit and have a debrief. This is what Josh and I do when we want to make sure that we remember the lessons.
What went wrong?
What went wrong? What went right? What can we do as we move forward? In anytime we see a project like this in the future, how can we prepare ourselves now so that when we see it, we go, I remember that one. We know what to do, right?
Yeah, it's easy when you're in these situations to feel like, okay, I learned something or I won't do that again. But all this happens, this work, this business, it happens at a pace that's hard to keep up with sometimes.
Big time.
And it's silly, but taking the time to really reflect on what could have officially been done better. What do we need to? Are there tools we need? Are there materials we need to carry? Is there a practice we need to have in place with a customer for managing expectations? So it's like taking a little bit of time to do an official debrief.
Right.
Is super valuable.
Right. And so when we do this too, it's basically just us discussing the things that we didn't do as well as we would have liked to. And so this, a lot of times we'll talk about the things that are great about business and the things that we kick ass at and blah, blah, blah. A debrief is basically us discussing the things we didn't do right.
Yeah.
And how that affected the project and how we, it's only by, I think, admitting to each other and to ourselves the things that we sucked at and feeling that little bit of sting to be like, God, I should have done that better. That's how you learn. That's how you remember in the future. You're like, I don't like the way that feels.
Yeah,
right on. I have one right off the bat. When we bid this job. So first of all, let's explain this doozy of a scenario.
If you don't know electrical work, this is all going to be.
Yeah, this is for the electricians.
Just tune out.
Sorry, just tune out. Just drive. Pretend.
The most valuable information just happened. Debrief is important. Yada yada yada.
And then here we go. Technical stuff.
Yeah.
So y'all have probably seen, if you follow us on Instagram, Instantgrams, as the kids are calling it. I'm sure you've seen this one. We've posted a couple pictures. It was a 200 amp electrical panel that was positioned ever so gingerly right behind a toilet in a first floor bathroom. And so so basically it was an old exterior wall. This was the former exterior wall of the home. You can see like the old siding, the old shingle siding. So there was some sort of panel there at some point, probably like a fuse panel.
Yep.
Right?
It's an old farmhouse.
That'd
be pretty common.
That's right. And then they added on to the side of the farmhouse, or they at least enclosed that portion that was there. When I talked to our inspector, he was really certain that the addition was outside. It was like an overhang. I don't know. He said he knew the location too.
Okay.
So it could have been that.
That was like a porch at one point.
Maybe a porch or something, right? And they had the panel sitting there. But then when they built the addition, or they closed it in, they built a bathroom in front of the electrical panel and literally put the toilet right in front of it, violating a number of codes, and one in particular.
That wasn't even really the hard part, though, right?
Yeah, you're right.
It's they boxed around the panel, which is common. But they built the opening just large enough for you to be able to get to the breakers.
Yeah.
Not the full panel.
Not even all the breakers.
The first panel we've had to cut in half to remove.
Yeah, never had to sawzall the top third of a panel off to get it out of its location, but that happened. Yeah. So yeah, they framed it in, and then it was tiled. So every space within that room was tiled.
So we couldn't. The reason that's relevant is we couldn't just cut the drywall to open it up and remove it.
Right. We were stuck with the opening we had. And then all of the conductors coming to that location were coming into various points of this electrical panel, and some of them were coming low, some were coming high, and they were terminated at, at those where the connectors are. And so in order to kind of get those, we needed to splice in that location every single circuit, because what we did is we relocated the electrical panel to the adjacent bathroom wall facing the hallway. So basically that same tiled wall just on the backside of it. And our hope was that a lot of those circuits would reach to the new panel location, because they were literally coming back through like a bulkhead. And they didn't.
And a lot of people have probably done it this way, and I've seen it done a bunch of times. I've actually done it before as well, but
Okay.
it's been a long time. A lot of people would leave that existing panel and use that as a junction box.
Right.
I guess in the moment we were faced with a couple things, which is we're both kind of perfectionist / purist. So there's this part
Annoyingly.
of like we want to have it be a nice clean junction box. We don't want it to look super like sketchy.
Right.
But also because of the way they built around this thing, to get to the breakers, they had removed the hinged door part of the dead front.
Because it didn't fit. You
Because-
couldn't open it.
Yeah. So I worked for a guy who used to always say, "Well, you use the panel as a junction box, and then you just take some like some tappets or some metal screws and screw that door closed.
Okay.
So it's like one big piece of metal. It's a
Right.
it's a cover to a junction box.
Right.
We didn't even have that there.
We didn't have the cover on the door. Yeah.
So is the like, but man, if we could have left that panel there,
It would have been easier. Just take the guts out. My concern is, same as you, it was like, this person hired us basically because there's this electrical panel behind the toilet. And so even if we were to relocate that to a new location, if we kept that there, it would still there would be a level of that, I think, that he would feel like, what did I just pay for?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's an issue with managing expectations,
Right.
Because that's something we talk about all the time.
That's a
too.
good
It's
point.
like
Yeah.
when you certain things when you approach it with customers at your first meeting versus after the fact,
Right.
you can get two completely different
Absolutely.
responses.
Absolutely.
out
And
of them.
and if you're, yeah, dude, that's such a good point. And if you're not upfront, or if you miss something,
Yeah.
you really are banking on the client, like whether or not the client's a nice person. So, because,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
We got really fortunate. So we were there getting our butts kicked yesterday, and I said to Doug, "Hey, let's just call this guy. He wasn't home yet. At least let him know where we're at,
Yeah.
just so he doesn't walk home to us." We've had to stay late for panel swaps before, but typically it's like 5 o'clock, and you're labeling the panel,
Yeah.
and you're getting out of there,
Right.
right? I've never not finished.
Right.
And so this was looking pretty rough. We had to run
Yeah.
out for parts a few times.
Few times.
That cost a lot of time.
Yeah. I feel like by the time 5:30, 6 o'clock rolled around, it was like, this is not, if we, yeah, we need to at least let him know.
Yeah. But now this is a situation where I can tell when we've worked there before. There's no furniture in the place. The
Right.
kitchen looks kind of torn apart, and it seems like maybe the guy bought the house. He's going to make a rental out of it or something. It doesn't seem like he's living there.
Right.
So
And
I
he's
think,
not.
yeah,
So that was luck.
really on
Luck was on our
there.
side there, because when I called him, he was like, "Yeah, I won't even be there. Don't worry about it. Do what
Yeah.
you got to do."
So we got the heat on and the water, and basically came back today to finish up.
That's right.
That's never happened to me before.
Hmm.
So,
Nope,
it's like
same here.
in terms of managing expectations, right,
Yeah.
from the jump, we can be like, all right, look, we can replace this panel with a fresh new junction box, but we might need a hotel. It's like,
right.
it's another situation also where there's only two of us.
Right.
That as a 3-man job goes, I was doing outside work.
I
You
was
were
in the
putting
panel,
new panel.
right, and
we
so
could have had a third guy doing the junction.
I was thinking the
box.
same thing. Yep.
But it's like, we're not going to hire a guy just on the off chance that we might have to relocate a panel.
It's true. So it comes down to planning. Had we planned that a little bit better, or understood maybe how to plan it better. And I'm not exactly sure. Like, there are some instances where you're completely relocating where the equipment is mounted to the wall.
You can actually do it ahead of time.
Yeah, we've done that before.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. So like if you doing a service upgrade and they want to change the connection point on the house, whatever the case may be, make it a 2-day job if it's a big one. Take one day to just take your time and real nice, clean, set that system up, and then the next day when they terminate power, change your connections over. But
So what could we have done ahead of time?
it's a good question. I'm not sure because
We-
everything
We could have done grounding.
could have done grounded. We could have put the panel in.
We could have opened the wall,
Yeah.
put the panel
Yep.
in,
Yep.
and maybe just gotten the Romex. I mean, if we knew what circuits were going into it, we could have gotten the Romex coming out of it
That's right.
over to where the junction would be
Yep.
and tied into the new panel.
You're right. That's true.
Then we could have,
Yeah.
day 2, just done
Yeah.
outside work and junction box.
That's right. It's a good point. So we could have used that as a relocation thing because that new panel is just in a new spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe, the future move is, and they're not always going to be set up that same way.
Right.
But it's like always, the rule should be always try and find how we could split it into 2 days.
Right.
What we could do ahead of time to shave time.
Right. And then just manage those expectations, like in the setup of the job. Just, hey, this is going to take us the better part of 2 days.
Yeah.
And I mean, we just got lucky in that one because he wasn't living there. And then I got there this morning, tied that box in, and tested everything. Labeled the majority. We're going to head over there Wednesday next week, and kind of do all the nice touch-up stuff. But I feel like, the mistake that I made in this one was when we first bid this project, the initial concept was to relocate the electrical panel and all of the equipment to the exterior of the home. That was the first bid. The customer kind of mentioned it. I don't know if somebody put that bug in his ear, whatever the case may be. But the idea was to have a exterior rated panel and everything just kind of fit. And then we were to do the same thing, junction, splice, run everything just outside. So when we gave him his proposal, that's what it was for. And then after talking to the inspector, thinking things through, talking to the homeowner again, we decided to relocate the panel interior just to the adjacent wall. But I did not change the information in the proposal in that instance, where I didn't go back into the proposal and resend him another proposal with the new information. It remained the original proposal as far as the structure of the work was concerned. So as far as managing expectations are concerned, that was a big mistake on my end because there's no information in there about how we do work on the interior of his home. And it wasn't until we went through this and I looked back at that proposal that I was like, shit, I didn't even change that.
And also, I know this guy's not. It's not the case, but
Yeah.
were he to be a lawyer who didn't want to pay his bill,
Right.
he'd be like, "Well, you guys didn't do what you said you
That's
were gonna
true. It's very true. Yeah. And it's those little things where, like, writing a proposal takes time. You're looking at this entire system and you're saying, like, man, how are we going to do this? You go, you talk to people, you talk to each other, you write it up, you do your pricing, you look at all the materials you would need. It's a process for
do."
sure.
Lots to manage.
And so once you've sold this, like, I think that what happened was we sold the job. He wanted to go with it. And then he was in the communication process as far as like renegotiate or reconfiguring what the setup was going to be. And he was very fine with it.
Yeah.
So that was, I didn't go back to the drawing board to change that.
Did the price change?
The price didn't change because the time and material were all relatively
okay.
completely. It's literally was. The difference was either that equipment was going to be the same distance on the exterior wall from the junction point, or it was going to be about the same distance on the interior wall.
I thought we went with the inside setup because of the arc faults. It was going to be further to go outside. We were going to have to do arc faults.
I mean, it's about the same. But that was
That's what it looks like to me.
But
yeah.
that was what the inspector suggested. He said if you go outside, you're going to be around 6 feet. So in I don't know how it is everywhere else, but
Yeah.
the way that Frederick County and the city of Frederick, I won't know the code article off the top of my head, but it's in arc fault protection. The way that the AHJs in the county and the city want us to arc fault protect old circuitry, existing circuitry. If you're replacing an electrical panel, you're doing a service upgrade. The rule in our city and our county is if you extend the circuit more than 6 feet or more, you've got arc fault protect. If you're obviously adding new circuitry, all new circuitry has to, follow current code guidelines, but existing circuitry. So if you see us do installations of panels, which is another thing to talk about as far as like social media stuff is concerned, you know, you see the guys in Canada, they can't go into the top of the panel. Everywhere you are, there's some different rules and regulations around that. So in this particular instance, the inspector suggested, why don't you just relocate the panel to the adjacent wall? And we might be talking about a foot or two different, but not much.
Maybe what he was thinking is to go outside, we'd have to come in that vertical wall space.
Yeah.
Out, and then we'd have to turn to get into the panel because the meter is right there.
The way that he saw it was, if we had to go outside, we're gonna have to arc fault protect damn near everything. And so when I talked to the client about that, and so we had those discussions too, you know.
Yeah.
I just didn't change that information verbally, and that was something that I didn't catch until, like, I was going through the job yesterday, and sometimes I'll just kind of peek at things, look at the blind, and I looked at it and I was like, well, shit. Big mistake, you know? And so, like, those are the little things that, like, those little tiny details where, like, when we're trying to be communication forward, those are the things we can't do.
Yeah.
We got to be direct. We got to be exact. So that's on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, luckily he was part of the communication process.
Yeah.
And he helped us make those decisions. So I feel like we were communicating. It wasn't, you know, just some sort of like decision of ours. But anyway, the main reason I even thought about it was because on the interior wall, we have to open drywall. And within our exclusions and our boundaries in our write-up is all, you know, luckily though, our terms of service was attached to, we have a 3-page work in progress terms of service, but it basically just lists what we do, what we don't do, and how we do what we do, so that when we send a proposal to somebody, they understand what they're getting themselves involved in, how we work, that sort of stuff.
And that way we don't have to retype it every time.
Yep. Just a little link. So anyway, just little things like that. Like looking back on the project, what could I have done better? I could have been more, I should have changed that information inside the proposal to be exact. And I just feel like that would have helped me feel like, I hate when you do something and it comes together and it looks great and it's good. And by all means, it's good. The client's happy. It's a great service, looks good, was a butt kicker and it looks great. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, no, I didn't do that one little thing. You know?
Yeah. We ran into an issue with the junction box that we used to replace the existing panel. We started with a 12 by 12 by 4.
12 by 12 by 4.
And what we found out was, you know, the wires came into the top of the old panel and they came into the bottom of the old panel, and the old panel was at least 30 some inches.
Yeah, right.
Probably.
Right.
24 inches maybe tall.
Yeah.
And so that's where those wires were trimmed. And so the new box sat in the middle and nothing reached.
Yeah.
Either the top would reach or the bottom wouldn't.
Yeah.
I ran out twice to try and remedy that issue, but there are times these days with supply houses where they can get you anything you need the next day.
Right.
But what they keep on hand is what you're limited to
Right.
if you're in a pinch.
That's right.
And we called one spot looking for an 18 by 18. They said they had it. I went out to get it. They didn't have it.
The old bait and switch.
And then it's like, I was there and I'm like, well, I don't want to have to go to another place. I'm trying to save time. I'll get 2 smaller boxes. We'll set one down low for the wires that come in the bottom. We'll set one up high for the ones that come up high. And it sounded like it made plenty of sense, but then when I got there, it's just there was too much to have to like coordinate at that time of the day in my mind.
Yeah, you're already like, we're hitting like 3 p.m. Dude. Been there since 8, like just working nonstop.
And you gotta punch all these holes into this box
Yeah.
to get these wires in it, and it's like, just need the actual 18 by 18. So I ran back out to get
Yeah.
that at a different place.
Yep.
And so it's like, but see, this is where next time we do this,
Yeah.
we know, okay, well, of course that makes sense, right? The existing box that's in the wall
Yep.
is 14 and a quarter wide by 30 inches tall.
Right.
We can get an oddball size if we order it ahead. We
that's
could
right.
almost get one that size.
Right. If it
we
would
want
make
to.
sense, right?
If it made sense.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Yep. Just another one of those little things that when you are in the process of preparing for something, you think you've got, like, I went through this one with a pretty fine tooth comb leading up to it. Like
he sent me a list the night
I
before
did.
of things
Well,
that I should bring.
I had the materials ordered a week in advance. I picked the materials up about 3 days ahead just to make sure that, because I knew it was going to be an ass kicker.
Yeah.
So I just want to, I like when it's going to be complicated, I'll like get all the materials out. I'll think it through. I'll look back at former like material list just to try to. If I hate going out, it's like to go back out is such a time suck. It is what it is, though. I mean, thank God we can do that. But like, I always like try my best to just have everything, and you never do. There's always like we need
That's one of
half-inch
those.
knockouts,
That's one of those
knockout blanks.
things where like we're in Frederick.
Yeah,
We have 4 reputable supply houses within at any given time within 20 minutes driving
for sure.
distance.
Yeah,
Most of the time it's more like 5 or 10 minutes.
yeah, they're nearby.
But then there's Home Depot and Lowe's. So we've got lots of options. But I
Yep.
think about it all the time. In Maryland, we have a place called Deep Creek Lake, which is this like it's in Western Maryland. It's beautiful. It's this like retreat area for people, and it's the trades up there are very limited. I think they have a Lowe's now, and there's a city like within an hour's distance that has a
So you
supply
have like
house.
no options.
But like I've had so many customers, and I think it's a brilliant concept. They're like, man, if you would set up an operation out there,
Yeah,
or spend part of your year out there,
Yeah.
like you guys, like there's like one electrician out there, or
wow,
and I'm if you actually work out there, you're probably pounding the dashboard right now.
right.
There's other people, but I've been told that basically out there, you get what you get because there's no other options.
Okay.
And so if you're a great company, you could set up shop there and you could have some really good business. But I think about it all the time. It's like the pace of those projects is limited to
The
their ability
availability
to get
Mhm.
supplies.
Sure. Yeah, there's something to be said about being in a place where you can get stuff the day of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it takes some of the guesswork out of your planning too. And I mean, so a lot of our work, residential work, especially in a historic area, we don't really do any new builds. We don't really do any like s- some some frame construction, some rough-ins, but it's rare. Usually
Yeah.
renovations or additions
We
when we
can't
do that.
compete with the companies that do that.
Right.
They hire big crews.
Yeah.
Lots of turnover.
Yep.
They don't pay them very well.
Right. So most of our work is very custom, and it's very like, especially with these old houses, that there are projects like this where, you do lose a little sleep the night before the project, where you're just like, did I think of everything? And then you didn't. And that's, I think there's something to be said too, and this is a topic of conversation. That I think about this a lot. We're both like this. We're perfectionists, and I don't think I'm a perfectionist but I want it to be good. I want it to be great. I want everything about it to be great. And I have to let go of some of that. I have to there's a messiness to everything that, in general, like timing, scheduling, there's just so much messiness to all of it that I'm learning to let go.
I'm usually the one who is crippled by my inability to not do it perfectly, and Doug is usually the one who says, "Josh,
that's fine. Let's keep
it's
going.
fine. Let's keep moving.
It's safe. It's code. Let's
So
mow. Let's go.
yesterday we're looking at the outside of the house, and I'll go to Doug when I want his input, or if I think I'm overthinking it. And we're looking at the meter base and how it has to be mounted where it is because it's an underground service, and then we're coming out with a nipple to a disconnect beside it, whole house disconnect. So that those two things are pretty relatively fixed.
Right.
And then we have to get a piece of SER out of the disconnect into the house. And we're hitting an interior wall that is perpendicular to the outside wall. So we have a 3.5-inch spot we have to go in.
Right.
Now, top to bottom, that can change. But so I'm looking at it, and I'm like, the only way I can see doing it is like wrapping this wire around things, real goofy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking,
Or
Doug,
coming out of the top.
I was thinking Doug was going to be like, well, it's fine. It's what we got to do. Instead, he was like, we can't do that. And I was like, I knew it. It's like, I'm not the only one.
No, yeah, I mean, but in those, so in this particular scenario, there's this, where that old exterior wall of that old farmhouse stood, and then the new framed wall on the interior, there was, a few inches, and it's just riddled with pipes. Like it's also a bathroom. So like yesterday, the other thing, look, let's count our blessings and talk about our successes too, because
We didn't hit a single pipe.
well, you had me in there. Like I was in there. Like I'll break everything. And I had a cold and a hot plastic, PVC pipe the whole day, just being like, I know you're gonna break me, Doug. And I didn't. So those are, you gotta count your successes too, for sure. I knew for sure. I was like, it's happening. I was like, "Hey, go find the main shutoff for the water." And
Do you
like,
always
yeah.
think that? Because maybe that's our problem. Maybe you're actually willing. You're
Gah!
bull in a china shopness. You
No,
know?
I just know myself. I just like I surprise myself with how oafy I am. My wife says it all the time. And she's just like, "You're just like a big gorilla or something, like a oaf." Anyway, I do it. I do my best. No, I didn't break those. But that wall was that interior wall was just like there was a vertical copper pipe, and then there were these PVC half-inch pipes here and there. And then so here was an interesting thing: is the person who used to own this house, this like an old farmhouse, the person who used to own it, and this is from the inspector. This guy owned like an insulation company. He invented a type of insulation. Like he was a creator of it, and it's a foam.
It's like a predecessor to the spray and foam insulation we all know now.
Yeah.
And it's horrible.
It turns to sand and dust. So the interior of this wall was filled with white 60-year-old dust. It was crazy. Yeah, it was awful. So anyway, getting anything through it was challenging. So when we were looking at that exterior meter and disconnect setup, we really had to get it was either come in low, and that makes sense, right? You drop the SER down, nice little offset, and you're in.
But I couldn't see in
right,
that wall,
but-
and there were so many pipes, and so I had to throw a respirator on and go in and just scoop that insulation out a handful at a time, and it was nasty.
It was nasty.
And fortunately, I'm glad I did that rather than drilling blind, because once I got in there far enough, there's like a copper pipe coming up right where I had to come in, and it's just like. That's one of those like measured 6 times cut once
right.
scenarios.
Yeah, you did
And
good.
so
You got it through.
Sent the pilot bit in. We were good. Made it happen.
Whew. We had to come in low, and then bring that SCR up high inside that wall, and then because our junction box was going to occupy the space where the SCR would really come across, so we had to kind of go up and over. We got it. We got
It worked
though.
out.
We did. We did it. Looks great. Brand new panel. Looks very nice. Another thing, when I think about this too, I got a 3060 panel. I think a 40 space would have been good. But the way I thought about this, the way our SER comes in, where it comes in.
You need that space.
Might have been the only size that would have
And
worked
that's
in
why
that spot.
that's originally why I thought you went with that.
Okay. Well, then let's
So-
just say that's what I did, and that I didn't make a mistake, and then that's what I wanted to. I meant to do that.
I feel like I don't know if anybody else out there agrees, but the whole 30-60, 20-40, 40-80, that's deceiving.
It is. It messes me up.
It's like some weird and I don't know if this is code based or it's local inspectors, but like there's folklore going around of the amount of tandems you could put in a panel, and the rule was like 10% of the panel or something, or 5% of the panel, and we were never allowed to put more than 2 tandems in a panel. And
Yeah.
so then they came out with these where like the 30-60,
Yeah, every space.
where you could put a bunch of tandems in there.
Mhm.
And so it's like, I guess that's a UL listing thing. Like the only thing that makes it different is that they say you can do it.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
But like, I never understood the issue, because if you're talking about a main breaker panel,
Yeah.
if you want to fill that thing up with tandems, worst case scenario, your main breaker is going to pop.
Sure.
So it's protected.
Sure.
So are they just trying to avoid nuisance? What's the concern there? It's like, is the neutral bar going to get too full? That happened on the old QOs when you were
Yeah.
putting the correct amount of breakers in there.
So true.
You know?
Yeah, it's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I get look,
If someone out there knows, let me know.
Yeah, if the main breaker and bus are rated 200 and you overfill it somehow, then aren't you gonna? I mean, I don't know.
I get if you've got an old split bus panel
Mhm.
and you just fill that whole thing up with tandems,
Right.
you could have an issue.
Right. No, but I guess they're rated for that. I mean,
But even then, you've got a lighting main, so it would pop.
right. Well, I mean, maybe the advent of more environmentally efficient or whatever appliances, lights, things like that might just make that overall load calculation on a general lighting load for a house less. I don't know. Or maybe there's some sort of industry understanding that like it's okay. You load it up.
The amount
Yeah.
I used to work for a guy, and maybe maybe the companies just got together to do this, but every time we had to put more than 2 tandems, he would sell the customer a sub panel, which is fine.
Yeah.
He made a lot of money, but I just that was one of those things where someone told us about it.
Right.
I never personally saw it in the code book.
Okay.
So maybe it's in there, or maybe it's a local thing,
Right.
or maybe it was never a thing at all.
Yeah, maybe it was never a thing at all. I'm not sure. You know, I don't know if BR offers this or Homeline or anything Snyder, but I know Siemens has tandem arc fault and ground fault breakers. So like tandem breakers, and each one is a specialty breaker.
That's got to be more common because
Yeah,
that's always been the concern is that you couldn't
do that, but no. Yeah. So I know Siemens offers it. I'm not sure if anybody else does.
Siemens also, or maybe it's BR, maybe it's both. They offer the tandem 2-poles.
Okay.
You ever seen that?
Yes.
Where the
I
top 2 are, you hate them?
I don't like them.
Why do you hate them?
I mean, it's not that I don't think they work or whatever, and I like that they make use of that space. I think that's cool. I don't like the switching. I don't like the arms, the little arms that connect between. I just feel like they've never really mastered that.
Yeah. It's just nice that it's because if you have a panel filled with, we did a panel a couple of years ago that was all baseboard heat throughout the house. Remember that one?
I do.
And it was
there
was
30
2-pole 20s in there.
Right.
And it just filled the panel.
Yeah. I mean, just because I don't necessarily like them based on that feel doesn't mean they're not super handy.
Strong word, though.
Did I say hate? Let's go. Let's listen back.
I despise those.
I want to murder them.
All right. Well, so it seems like the big takeaway is the sizing of the junction box.
Yep.
And managing expectations.
That's right. And detail.
And try and split it into 2 days as much as possible.
Yeah, I think so. I think anytime you're relocating, it's one thing to do a heavy up where you're just swapping and you direct replacement. That takes all day anyway.
Well, and I should specify for a 2-man company.
For a 2-man crew. Yeah. Everybody calm down.
Now, and we're not lazy. We'll stay till midnight to get the job done, but we have to consider the customer. So if we don't want to stick around for dinner at the customer's house, which they never like.
They're not usually into it.
Even if they offer you dinner.
Oh, yeah, it's a good...
Always say no.
It's a good thing to bring up. I'm glad you brought that up because
they don't want you there.
Yeah, they don't want you there. That is a thing. It's like, especially residential work. It's like once you hit 5 p.m., it's like, let's get out of this.
Yeah, when they start cooking dinner and they're like, how much longer do you think it'll take? I don't really care. I mean, you can stay as long as you need to. Just curious. It's like, you want me out of here?
Yeah, that's right. We'll leave soon.
It's like, I know. My thought was always like, sir, I don't want to be here any more than you want me here. Please,
sir. When will you be leaving? Not soon enough.
The challenge with scheduling, if you work for somebody else, you might not feel it as much. I mean, your boss might yell at you, but when you're the one in charge of the schedule, unless you've allotted for time to come back the very next day, it's always painful because the customer, they're starting to make their dinner and they're like, you can always come back tomorrow if you want to. It's like, that's super nice of you, but it's not on the schedule.
Right.
It's like, so I either have to push the next 2 months back to accommodate you.
Sure. It gets hard this time of year too, when work starts really coming in.
Yeah.
That's when I just hope my body keeps up.
We all do.
I had a friend ask me recently, how's the business going? I go, business is great. Just hoping my body keeps up with the business.
If anyone's ever seen the Lego movie, the pirate with the big old body that all built out stuff, we're gonna get Doug one of those. I'm in.
Whatever it takes.
That's the next face swap.
There's lots of technology. There's lots of advancements in exoskeleton technology
what
these
was that
days.
You sent me? Was that Ryobi or Makita that had that?
I don't know who it was, but there's exoskeletons you can wear now. You don't even need a back. You just lay there, just walk.
For all those old timers who thought they were about to retire, don't worry, you don't have to.
That's like a grandpa.
Get up, grandpa. Time to go.
I mean, they're kind of cool though. I would use them for bad things. I feel like I would take it to the basketball court. Oh, that's a bad thing. People will be like, "Are you wearing an exoskeleton on the basketball court?" Be shooting jump shots from 3/4 of the court. I don't know. I don't think I'll ever have an exoskeleton just out of pride alone.
I like how that's a phrase in here. I don't think I'll ever have an exoskeleton. And that's
I
one,
will. Who
that's
am I
one of our
kidding?
takeaways for
Who am I
today.
kidding? They're probably gonna, it'd be like anything else where they're gonna be like really popular. Everybody's gonna have them. Like teachers are gonna be like exoskeletoned out.
Hipster's gonna be like,
They're.
I've got my original body.
I'm gonna have all of my stickers. I'm gonna put all these stickers on my exoskeleton. People know I'm cool. Cool exoskeleton, man. Is that DeWalt and Milwaukee are gonna start making exoskeletons with like
They'll probably go to
18
war.
volt.
Like actual war.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Skynet made the T100 or whatever,
Yeah.
but Milwaukee's gonna make like the T800.
I'm fine with that. Milwaukee v DeWalt, future robot wars. Yeah, man. I feel like the body thing is tricky because it's like I don't know. I was thinking this the other day too. Not to get too off topic, but I always think like, well, if I stay fit, then I won't have the back issues, right? I don't know if that's true.
Well, but here's the thing. It's like, so, when we talk about we're a two-man crew, we're 3 years in, so we're planning for our future. That means we don't have a plan yet, right? We're in the process. Everyone says, well, you don't want to be doing this when you're 70. It's like, no, maybe not. But I think studies show that you want to be doing some physical activity when you're 70.
Totally.
So the fact is, your body's going to fail you, whether you're working or working on living at home.
Fact. Right.
You've got to be doing stuff to take care of it.
I agree. Yeah.
So in our situation, like yesterday, here I'm about to try and take off this 100-year-old transfer switch off the side of the house by myself. I can, but I'm like, well, Doug's right inside.
Yep.
Let me ask him to help me.
That's right.
So I
Put on the
we
exoskeleton.
set this thing in the yard. It's super heavy, and I'm about to go carry it to my van because every time I go to my van, I've got a hands full rule.
Yep.
Take something with you, right?
Yep.
I'm about to grab this thing. I'm like, man, I could do it, but it looks really heavy. I'll ask Doug to help me grab it later.
Mm-hmm.
6 o'clock rolls around, and Doug has already put that thing in the van. Whose back hurts?
Can't imagine why. I did get home like, I don't know what time we got home, 6:30, and I borrowed my wife's heating pad. Let me tell you, man. I do a lot of stretching. I stretch a lot. I do a lot of stretching's important. I roll on the I got a little lacrosse ball. I roll on that for a while. I got the Theragun. Clack, 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 clack. I'm just hitting my muscle. So I take the muscles and I say bow, 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 and then I just laid on a heating pad and answered emails and watched basketball. But that did it. I woke up this morning, and I didn't have back pain this morning. It was like the heat. It's the heat.
You still hitting kettlebells?
I am still hitting kettlebells. The thing is, I'm very inconsistent. I'll go on these runs for like a while, and then there'll be a day where I'll be like, I'm not going to exercise today. I'm going to chill. And then a month later, I'm like, I haven't exercised in them, and it happens every time.
Let me pick up this transfer switch by myself.
Yes.
I've realized I'm bad at working out as well.
Yeah.
But what makes it easier is if I can hit like at least one exercise that I'm going to get the most bang for my buck.
Right.
And if there's a part of the body that has failed me the most, it's my lower back.
Mm-hmm.
The Russian swings.
That's right. Kettlebell swings are amazing. That's the whole problem area is the upper back. Upper ass meets is a technical legal term. I did go to school. The lower back meets, and then this is where all the fat goes too. There's no fat anywhere except right there.
Well, and here's the thing. It's also, all right, we're in the trades.
Yeah.
We hurt our backs a lot. But speaking of being 70 and doing whatever you do, whether you're the trades or you're at home.
Right.
When old people fall, that's like the end of things for them, right?
Toast. Yep.
So when you go to fall, and Peter Attia talks about this all the time, your ability to, this is where grip strength comes in.
Okay.
And hip mobility and strength.
Okay.
Falling happens, but your ability to quickly catch yourself, brace against something, grab something, put your hands out,
save your life.
That's all fast twitch. That's all, like speed, explosive movements. So when you're doing your exercises, whatever you're doing, cardio is great. Hanging from a bar is great. not by your neck. But kettlebell swings are an explosive movement, so
Yeah.
it's like it's the closest thing that's going to simulate a real life scenario where you're having to, if you're going downstairs and you go to slip, you have to quickly
Right.
catch yourself. You're not going
Right.
to catch yourself slowly.
That's always when my back goes out. When I like do a bunch of work or I'll play basketball or whatever, and I'll be in the house and I'll open the cabinet and like paprika like will fall off and I'll move to catch and I'll be like, ah!
The amount
Paprika!
of ninjas with bad lower backs. It's really, they don't talk about it.
So few. Yeah, it's tricky, man. It's like, but I think, because we're always talking about the ways to combat that, and obviously stretching and exercise are big. But I also think that you just are, as you get older too, like just a good 12-hour day like yesterday where we're just nonstop all day. Wear and tear, it's just, you're going to feel it. Yeah.
So
Maybe.
that, just like we talked about earlier, the takeaway.
Right.
What is if we're getting older and we're planning for, all right, we're planning for a 2-man job, we're planning to get older.
Yeah.
The difference would be, you said a good 12-hour day like yesterday.
Yeah.
That would be 2 6-hour days.
Oh, there you go.
That's how old men do it.
That is how
2
old men do
6-hour
it.
days.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Just saying.
That's a great move
it's like
for a couple old guys.
As we're learning our lessons from the job and sharpening up, it also takes care of the back issue.
That's a great point, man. Just not overdoing it. So planning.
By planning better, managing expectations better.
Damn.
Your body is taken care of better.
Damn.
Then you get off work early and you can go work out
Damn.
instead of laying on your wife's heating pad with Midol and stuff.
I mean, that might all feels good, and so does that heating pad. Look, man, the debrief is, you know what I mean? This is why we debrief, guys. That's why we do it. Where are you at? You want a beer?
Sure
I
do.
mean, it's Thursday. Thirsty Thursday. This is why we debrief, though, for real, because you go, like, projects come and go. They are in and they're out. You work your ass off and you move on, and it's a blur. And you would not. I mean, there are things you'll remember, but how many of you have been on a job and something happens, you make a mistake that you've made before? Boy, that pisses me off. I hate it. I hate making the same mistake, like especially when it's a big one, because you're like, I know better. And so these moments, whether you journal or you talk to another electrician or team member, whatever, take the time to sit and hash it out, because the goal is to just make less mistakes as you go and understand better how to approach everything.
One thing I like to do, I don't know if anybody else out there does it. So I have a good memory for totally irrelevant things. But when it comes to being on a job site, I keep my phone pretty close by and the notes app handy. And I have 2 running lists on there. And one of them is truck stock and one of them is tools that I need. That should be separated from tools I want. I want to be clear there. Tools I need for function.
Right.
And what I have to do is, as I encounter a problem, I have to write it down, stop and write it down right away. And that can be really hard to do if you have momentum going, or if it's 6 o'clock and you're running way behind.
Right.
You're afraid people are going to see you on your phone, think you're, texting or something. But yesterday, I needed a big flathead screwdriver. I was able to borrow Doug's.
Yeah.
But I used to keep one on the van. It's either missing or I took it off or whatever. I don't know. I need another one on there because that is something I don't use super often. But when I need it, super helpful.
Yeah.
So without taking notes, without the debrief, I go borrow Doug's and I move on with my life. Next time I encounter it, maybe Doug's not there and I'm like, oh, crap.
I didn't solve that.
So it's like when you don't take an action, like writing something down or ordering something right away,
Right.
or discussing it, it's going to keep happening. So it's like if you don't have a white switch on your van and you're like, I got to remember to stock that. And then the next time you don't have it, you're like,
I've been there.
You're not making any progress if you just keep going,
Yeah.
So it's like you bust the list out. I have a Home Depot list, all right, big flathead screwdriver, sawzall blades, anything I encounter I don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't necessarily help me that day, but that is the action that's going to make sure it's not going to happen next time.
Right.
It's going to get fixed.
Right.
And speaking of not having tools, if they're cheap enough,
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's ever heard this theory. I heard it from Dave Canterbury, but the idea is about how many you keep of things, and especially with their importance. So headlamps. I use a headlamp almost every day.
Yeah.
I have to have a spare.
Okay.
Now, the old saying was 3 is 2, 2 is 1, and 1 is none.
Yeah.
There's another version of that. I think
Well, it's 4 is 3.
No,
Pretty
I
straightforward.
think it's 1 is none, 2 is 1, and 3 you have a spare. So that's the idea. But
Gotcha.
basically, it's like
Makes sense.
so. The tools that I use absolutely the most: my pliers, my lineman's pliers, my dikes, a screwdriver, and a razor blade. Those are like those 4.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely have a spare of
Right.
for each one.
Yep.
But everything else I have to have. If I don't have it, I encounter that I need it, I write it on a list.
Yeah. It's a good thing to do.
So yesterday we had that issue. I didn't have the big screwdriver. I used Doug's. I wrote it down. Today, got off a little early before we sat down here.
Mm-hmm.
I went and bought me a screwdriver.
Awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot to be said. I made a little post on Instagram this week about that, about like, it was the silly thing about the lamp part, the little lamp kit that you've got on your truck. And I went out and I got myself
New pack out.
Jared was really happy to make fun of me for purchasing what he said was a $50 pack. It was $35, by the way, Jared. And he said to put $10 of parts in, which is very funny. It's super funny, Jared. That's funny you say that. No, but it was. So the point of the message though was, I try to do that. I try to make a point to take action. I've said it before. I like to have conversations with friends of mine who work in the tech industry because I like to think about our electric company in those like, if there's something cool that we could implement that tech companies are implementing that makes communication more efficient or more thorough or whatever. A lot of times you won't find those solutions in like the construction sector. You have to look in so anyway.
Yeah.
I like those sorts of ideas, and I try to. I'm not always good at it, but I try, just like what you did, is when somebody tells me an idea that I go, oh, really? I go get it. I go do it. I go I don't wait. I try not to
that's
hesitate.
That's the biggest separating factor, because when you did that post, I thought it's absolutely true. It's like everyone hears this knowledge isn't it's not hidden away.
Right, sure.
Everyone's constantly hearing about these products and these things. They go, oh, I should do that, or oh, I should get that.
Right.
But it's just by implementing it,
right,
you put yourself into the next
level. It's true.
Of professionalism.
I think that it's like an ADD thing. It's like the way I operate is I know I have to do things, and so I'll start them. And so for example, you see all my all my tabs open on my computer. It's because I have a tab open of a thing I need to take care of. And I'll open it and I'll get moving, and then I'll get back to the thing I was. So it's like that. I kind of feel like the taking action thing is part of that. It's like if I hear something, whether it was like you and I both talking to Chad German, he was talking about Speed of Trust, that book.
We're both
listening to Speed of Trust. It's like just it's the little thing.
Yeah,
it's the little tiny thing of going don't wait on that. Do that now.
And a lot of that might be, a lot of people tend to think they have more time than they do.
Right. Could be just getting old. We know we're going to die soon. And so it's like, I got to read that book today. Probably should have read it today.
I wonder if there's a correlation between lower back injuries and taking action. The more you've hurt the back, the more you realize that,
you need to calm down.
That you're dying and, you need to just do things.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
In all fairness, people who don't have lower back problems are probably going to have more weekends.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. Bastards. Anything else from this experience that we could really draw from, take away? What were some of the other things? This is going to be the one with the...
Did you... what was the cleanup process there like today? Because I brought my Swiffer.
Yep. We need to Swift. But it's nice and clean.
People make fun of electricians for not cleaning up.
Or nerds.
How many electricians out there have a Swiffer?
I bet a bunch of you guys do. Yep.
Nice guy.
No, it's nice and clean. It's was a hell of a mess, but
Okay.
looks good, man. I'll maybe I'll post some pictures. We'll see. I hate you guys. What's that? What you doing in there?
Wires are clean, but it's the wrong brand.
I'd have gotten a different size. That's you guys. Ah, just teasing. Not really. Fuck you guys. We all feel the pain. Anytime you want to post something,
Hey, I've done it.
you're like, maybe I just post it later. I'll post it. That's what I've been doing lately. Is I'll go to post something and I'll go
Write an angry
Post it
email, wait on it, then delete it.
and delete it. That's the way. Make content, sit
Delete it.
on it, and then delete it. That's the best advice we can give you for your sanity. Nah, I kid. I'll show some pictures. You know what? Another thing I've been thinking about doing, in regards to all this is like social media is this thing, right? It's like here's social media. We all look at our pictures of our things, but I feel like I'm constantly revisiting the idea that social media platforms are outside of our control, and at any point in time some organization could buy one up, close it down, whatever the case may be. Maybe not, whatever. But social media is like this thing that we put all this faith in and all this content in and all this time and work in, but it's not proprietary to a certain extent. Like Instagram technically owns the rights to your content. And so one thing I was thinking about doing with our website is we have a blog page on the website where there's a few blogs written, and it's really geared toward our customers on the Lumen Brothers website. But instead of just posting things to social media, we could take an experience like this one that we just had, and I could potentially just like write a piece about it, about what to do when you're in a home and your panel's behind the toilet.
Is
You
that customer?
Yeah.
We always ask who's the audience.
Who's the
right?
audience,
Is that
right.
for the customer? Is that for other
It would be
electricians?
no, not for other electricians. Anything on, and that's a good question though, because it could go both ways. I think if it was for electricians, we'd want to post it on
Well,
modern.
and also
yeah.
how you write it and the approach is different,
true,
right?
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if
How
you're writing it
technical
for
are you?
customers,
Mhm.
you don't want to tell the customer how badly we screwed up on this. Well, no, but that's a real thing we talk
True,
about, right?
yeah.
Because look,
Yeah.
we have a combined experience in the trades of like 26 years.
Right.
We're a professional company. We've
Yeah.
got great reviews.
Yeah.
But then they find out that like, wait, you guys really didn't know what you were doing? Oh God. But it's like we
It's
talk
not-
about it all the time that like that's actually how a lot of we
Yeah.
learn on the job.
Yeah,
and
that's
so like your best install is gonna be the next one. It's like
Mhm.
we learn actively at
Yeah.
these customers' houses.
Yeah.
And so when you do something for the first time or screw it up bad and recover, you can't tell the homeowner that.
That's a great point of view.
And you can't tell them that like, thank you for what your house taught me because I'm gonna do it better next time.
Yeah.
So-
But I mean, even doctors have a practice. Lawyers have a practice, right?
Yeah, but again, they wouldn't tell the,
You
the
don't want to know
patient,
that. Right.
I'm really gonna get the next one better.
Yeah, right.
It's like
I
So-
learned a lot.
I learned
I
a
learned a
lot
lot
about your
by botching your appendix. So I do appreciate it. No, I think that if I were to write something like that, it wouldn't be a debrief like this. It would be more geared toward, and it's a great question because it could go either way. We could have a blog for the Modern Electrician site that's specifically this experience,
Yeah.
basically like this, geared toward electricians. Here's what we ran into. Here's what we do different. But for the client, it could just be here is what this situation looked like, and here's how we improved it.
And and what I'm
Yeah.
thinking is like for other people out there with their websites or their social media. And we talked to who's our guy out of Florida that we talked to recently?
Oh, Roman out of
So,
ACDC.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and he brought up something like this, but we talk about it all the time. You just have to say who's my audience on this.
Right.
Typically with social media like Instagram, it's going to be fellow electricians, other people in the trades.
Right.
Your website should probably be more for your customers.
Right.
So you can write the exact same blog two completely different ways, and it might behoove you to do both.
Right.
Right. So like
Right.
electricians might get something out of you writing a blog for Modern Electricians saying,
Totally.
hey, look out for this, look out for this.
Right.
Set the expectation with the customers.
Right.
You're telling the electricians how to do it.
Right.
Then there's a completely separate conversation for the homeowner
Right.
saying, if you have a panel behind your toilet,
Right.
here's what to expect.
That's right. Yeah, it's good. Those
Yeah.
are great.
Your electricians are going to be in your house till
Yeah.
midnight.
Hope you like dinner with the lights off. No, but you're right. I mean,
Just
and
set
yeah,
the parameters.
it's so funny. Like, there's so much content to create. We need like a whole team of people. We like bloggers. Dustin, share some of your team. I'm kidding. But it's a lot. I think but it's a lot because there's so many possibilities. It's just a matter of like how much time you can devote to like the building of all of it. But I always feel a bit of anxiety about that because the ideas are there. I always have the ideas are there. I'm like, I want to do it. But then I'm like, I only get one Saturday a week.
Lumen Brothers has a policy about when Doug says the word anxiety.
What's the policy?
We have to stop all actions and assess.
Nah, I'm feeling fine.
When I get a text at 5:30 in the morning, I'm like, Doug's feeling anxious.
And that's because I waited.
I've been up for an hour and a half.
That's because I waited.
Yeah.
That's when I felt like it's probably fine.
We get, we share, so we each have our own email and we share a company email.
Right.
And so we get invoices and receipts from the supply house. And I'll be waking up out of bed and I'll see an email come in that Doug is already at the supply house. He's that guy who's like waiting at the door.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Like,
Like,
where the fuck's everyone at?
Doug's here.
Uh-huh. Nah, I just on like this morning, I got to the client's house at 6:30 because he wasn't there.
Yeah, you texted me like 11 a.m. to say that you just spent 4 hours wiring the box, and I'm like doing the math. I'm like counting backwards. Yeah, Doug's keeping those commercial hours.
Yeah, I just felt like for me in this scenario, what I didn't want is the homeowner to like come there in the morning before I got there and just I wanted to be there to continue to manage expectations. Like, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and also I knew that was going to be a real doozy of a tie-in.
I want to be clear. It's a part of you that I really value.
Oh, good.
Is
Good.
that you're anxious as hell.
Anxious motherfucker, man.
But
I
no,
use it to my
like-
advantage.
Like Jocko always says, like they say, well, you shouldn't fear failure. He's like, well, you should to some degree because that's what keeps you motivated.
That's right.
It's
That's
like,
Yeah.
you should be willing to accept failure and
Yeah.
learn from it.
Right.
But also the fear of failure is what keeps you
Yeah.
practicing, debriefing,
Yep.
waking up early, stocking the truck, cleaning the truck,
God,
making the list, studying.
I hate that you mentioned cleaning the truck because my truck right now, that little Tacoma. Ooh, after these last 2 days.
With really rough days like these, I do what I call a triage, which is just get the bulk of the trash off.
Yeah.
Make sure you have the material you need for the next day.
Right.
You do a fine-tuned clean later.
Yeah, right. Weekend.
Just stop the
Weekend
bleeding
clean. Stop the bleeding.
and just,
Yeah, don't roll up to the client's house the next day, open your door, and have all your shit fall on their lawn. I mean, if you do, please videotape it and post it on Instagram so I can laugh about
slow-mo maybe.
it. Oh, please, that'd be great.
All right, well,
Yeah.
I gotta...
Yep. That's
Get
the
back.
debrief, y'all. Hope you liked it. Hope you learned something from it. The truth is, is just there's lots of ways to skin a cat, and planning's a big part of taking that cat's fur off
So go find cats.
and skin those motherfuckers. But it's just there's just so much there's so much to consider. Every project, especially big projects, there's so much to consider. Some of them you've done it before, but not like this. And so yeah.
I feel like, and the point of the debrief is, don't think you're going to remember these lessons, and don't think that, like, in the fog of war that you're going to see them all.
Right.
It's when you step back, write stuff down. What did I learn? What went well? What went wrong?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, whoa, I didn't even think about that.
Right.
That's the value of the debrief.
It is, yeah, because you're gonna see it again. You're gonna come across something similar, and you're gonna be like, what happened that last time? And the best you can do is hope. Best you can hope for is that you remember to some extent the things you learned.
Yep.
All right, y'all.
Bye.
Man.